Welcome to Herbs of the Forest. Today, me and the herbalist, we're gonna switch it up on y'all. We're gonna break y'all off with some law. So the topic today is traffic violations. You get a traffic ticket, you've been going to the wrong courthouse. Ain't nobody gonna tell you. The judge ain't gonna tell you because they collecting money from you, because you don't know no better. My name is Forrest Gump,
I'm Todd Leiter.
Mr. Herbalist slash. This guy wrote some awesome documents, legal documents. This brother wrote a bad legal document. It was so good, it tied up the courts for years. That's how good it was. But today's topic is traffic violations because you have been going to the wrong place the entire time. Now, to start this off, I guess I'll start it off, Todd, because I think I'm going to ask you a question. There's three branches of government, right?
Depending on who you ask.
Okay, how
Depending
many
on who
branches
you
of
ask.
government? How many branches of government to you?
There's three for me.
Okay, there's three for me. But I don't care about nobody else. I just want to. This is me and you talking right now, because some people dumb. Okay, but in any case, there's three branches of government: judicial, executive, and legislative. Now, when you get a traffic ticket, the real question is, which branch of government does traffic fall under? I asked a guy.
Ha ha ha
I had a
ha
guy
ha
call
ha.
me the other day, yesterday as a matter of fact, and he said, "Man," he said he went to court for his traffic ticket. Now he went to a judicial court, where everybody else go, and he asked the judge, "What branch of government does traffic fall under?" The judge told him it's a quasi branch of government. I laughed because didn't I just pose a question how many branches of government there is? Quasi wasn't one of them, was it?
Well, it's not one under the Constitution, but
Well, then nothing else don't matter because
well,
his oath of office runs under the Constitution, does it not?
that's true. But you, as a uh, corporate citizen, don't have access to the Constitution.
Yeah, but everybody's not a corporate citizen. You can only be a corporate citizen if you say you are a corporate citizen. They can call you anything they want to call you, but when you go into a corporate city, well, let me ask you this: does a court have jurisdiction if you go into a corporate city? Yes or no?
If you allow them to, they always claim subject matter jurisdiction
That means if you walk in there, they do have jurisdiction, right?
until you object to it.
Or well, let's take it a step further. You're not supposed to be where you're not supposed to be. For example, I asked, there's three branches of government. Now, traffic doesn't fall under the judicial branch of government, right?
No.
Okay, if traffic doesn't fall on the judicial branch of government, and you go into a judicial branch of government for traffic, what's wrong with that scenario?
Okay. The problem with this it's a little complicated, but you first have to understand what the traffic ticket is. The traffic ticket is an administrative agency claim that you have violated some provision of the California Vehicle Code. So the key here is it's an administrative agency claim. So they're claiming that you violated an administrative law. So how does it get into a criminal courtroom? The way
Okay,
it gets
I'm so glad
so
you
the
asked.
way
Go
so the
ahead.
way it gets into a criminal courtroom is the DA collects the tickets and files a criminal complaint on you in the courthouse. That's how it becomes criminal. But it's not. But it's actually an administrative claim. So the reason traffic is criminal is because they file criminal charges on you. But it's not. But the agency is not criminal. The Department of Motor Vehicles, who has jurisdiction over the vehicle code, is not a criminal agency. So you're in the wrong courtroom, but you're in there by default because you don't know that you're not supposed to be there.
Okay, I'm so glad he said that. See, he broke it down. I wasn't gonna break it down like that. I was just gonna call you a dumbass and say, okay, because I was one for a very long time. Then finally, I got the nerve to challenge the judge, but I did two things. The first thing I did was I created a document charging the judge with treason. I put her name and everything on the document. Then, while I was there, I brought it to her attention that I was in the wrong courtroom. And of course, she argued me down saying that I wasn't. And of course, I argued back and saying that I was. Then I proved that I was. And the only way I proved that I was, I brought up the fact that the penal code says that the Department of Vehicle is administrative in nature and it falls up under the executive branch of government. When I said that to her, all she could say was, well, I don't know about that, Mr. Petrol. Right there, she admitted that I was in the wrong venue. And she dismissed my case immediately because I brought that up. Didn't charge me for the bond like she charged everybody else. And then dismissed my case and kicked me out of the courtroom. So what I learned from that was there's only three branches of government. And if traffic is administrative in nature, you must go to an administrative court for a traffic citation of any type, unless there's an injured party.
Okay, okay, I hear you. I hear you talking, but if if I get a traffic ticket, I'm playing devil's advocate. If I get a traffic ticket, it's telling me to appear at a certain court, but that's criminal. What am I supposed to do? Because I'm not trying to get the people aren't trying to get warrants for their arrest. So tell me what they're supposed to do.
First thing you do is you go take that ticket you got to the administrative courthouse, file for a court date. When they give you your court date, you take a copy of that documentation that they give you for your court date, and you go notify the judicial court that this case is now in the correct venue.
So
and they can't do
so
nothing.
So in other words, you're moving the case.
I'm moving the case to the proper jurisdiction without them telling me I can or I can't. See, because once you do that, it gives notice. You can't go to two different courts for the same charge. And since traffic is administrative, the only place you're supposed to be is an administrative court, not a judicial court. So they've been breaking the law. That's why I charge them with treason, and they always kick me out of their courtroom because they don't know where I'm. They don't know where I'm coming, which way I'm going, and I never added that to my documents when I filed those documents charging them treason. I should have added that, but I didn't. So you just made me hindsight. You just made me think about what I also could have added to the document. But you know who I learned this from, and he was real good. So anyway, I didn't need to. I just made the argument, and of course they threw it out. But now there's a way to stop all that. You'll stop the posting the bond and the bails and all that good stuff. Because, the Department of Motor Vehicle have 10 days to give you a hearing, which they don't do anymore. So that means they're not going to show up. And even if they did show up, who going to represent them? Is it an employee going to represent them? They don't have a law firm, huh?
Right. I mean, well, that's one way to actually fight the traffic tickets. The way I did it.
Now you had a good way too.
The way I did it was I used the California Administrative Procedures Act. So what I did is I looked at the codes, and so all codes are valid in the law. So I looked at the California Government Code, and I found that there's a rule. California Government Code, Section 11505, Section A. So in that code, they're telling you that the accusation, meaning the traffic ticket, shall include a postcard or other form entitled notice of defense. So what that means is when you get a ticket, they're supposed to mail you a postcard, giving you the opportunity to have your administrative hearing. But they never do that. So when they don't do that, that's a violation of due process. So due process trumps their jurisdiction. So I would use the due process argument saying we can't even hear this case until you solve the due process issue. They never knew how to solve the due process issue, so they would never be able to hear my case in court.
That's why they held. How many years they held your case?
They had my case. Well, actually, they couldn't figure a way to prosecute me because I kept arguing this. So they kept every time I came to court, the DA would say I'm not ready. So eventually, they just took me off calendar and left my case as as without any calendar dates for like 10 years. And so anybody can look this up, look my name up in the Riverside court system, and you'll see that my case for a routine driving with suspended license carried on for 10 years. And they couldn't figure out how to prosecute me. I think I'm the only person ever in the state of California to win a driving with suspended license ticket.
Oh, no. I always win driver's or no license. So you ain't the first. Um, I don't promote that. I don't tell people to do that, though. I tell people to get the license and you can still win the ticket. You know,
Right.
Don't do what we do unless you know what we know. And you got to have heart. To file treason against a judge, you got to have heart. Because you, in essence, you're going after his livelihood. And you can't have a heart of I care. You got to have a heart of me or him. Because
Right.
they're out to take your money. They're out to hurt you in every way possible. But people don't realize the pen is truly mightier than the sword. And all you got to do is study and learn a little bit. Learn what governs you. Traffic is awesome. It's unique. It's awesome. And it's in your favor. But if you don't know, then that makes you slow. And it makes you liable. Huh?
Yeah. So I think the first part, people that are interested in learning the law, traffic is a great place to learn it because the penalties are relatively low. You're not going to go to prison for any hard time. So the first thing I always tell people to do is do a Google search on the right to travel, and that'll give you the basis for why you don't need to have a driver's license in the first place.
But that information is really very tough because just searching the right to travel does not tell you or explains what the penal code means. Even
No,
though
I understand that, but that gives them the foundation to understand why they don't have to why they don't have to have a license. Then now I'm not saying don't get a license. I'm saying you have to understand what the license is for. The license is for commercial purposes.
only
The original intent of the license was for people that wanted to use the streets for an extraordinary purpose, meaning they wanted to use it for profit.
and they
So
never and they never created laws for the private person when it
right.
comes to traveling in your personal capacity.
However, most of us have been swindled or we've been tricked into converting our private automobiles into motor vehicles and getting licenses and things like that. And basically making a statement that you're engaged in commerce and you're not in commerce. So when you say when I'm driving, that's a commercial term. You're saying that you're transporting goods or services for a fee, and you're not doing that when you're taking your kids to the soccer game or something like that. However, so that's why I say read the right to travel to empower you to make you want to learn more, and then you can learn the tactics and strategies to actually fight the ticket when you get there.
Because first and foremost, you're going to the wrong place to fight your ticket. It's administrative because it's written on behalf of the Department of Motor Vehicle. It is not written. It is not a felony. It is not judicial. It doesn't fall up under the judicial branch of government. So you are in the wrong place. No matter what that judge tells you, he's gonna tell you what he need to tell you to keep you in his courtroom so he can make you pay some money out your pocket. But if you don't go there in the first place, then guess what? You're no longer giving him jurisdiction. Can you hear me, Todd?
Yeah, okay.
But the moment you walk into his courtroom, you've given him jurisdiction. Period. You don't go in there trying to make the argument that you don't have jurisdiction. No, you just gave it to him when you walked in his courtroom.
So, right, and that was a mistake I made because I tried to go into the courtroom.
I can't hear you, Todd.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Celeste, can you hear Todd? I can't hear him. Try it again, Todd.
Can you hear me?
You just popped out on me. I wonder why that did that. Crap. Say something, Todd. Try to fix it.
Can you hear me? I can hear them. I can hear you clearly. I can hear you clearly on my end. I can hear you on my end.
Man, it was working real good. It just cut out. Oh, they don't want us. Well, they don't want us talking about this, bro. They don't want us talking about this. How about not, Todd? Say something.
Can you hear me?
I agree now.
Okay. So the mistake I made was I knew I was right, but I was going to the courthouse trying to argue this. And depending on the judge that you get, they'll let you win sometimes, but sometimes they wouldn't. And what they would always do is they would always make me go last because they didn't want anybody to hear my argument I was making. And then they would test you to see if you really know what you're doing or you just reading something that somebody wrote for you.
Yep.
If they figured out you knew what you were talking about, they would let you go. And so, but they would always make sure I went last. But the problem is what you taught me was I was going to the wrong courtroom in the first place. Once I realized that you don't need to be going to the criminal courtroom, you need to be going to the administrative court. That eliminates all the arguing and with the judge about this because he's not going to concede this even if he knows it's right.
And they're there to collect money from its citizens. They're not there to administer justice. They're there to collect money. That's why they always ask everybody that walks in there to pay.
Mm-hmm.
It is not about justice. It is about currency. It is about revenue. Because if you ask yourself, why, when you get a ticket, why are you paying? There is no injured party, right? You ain't harmed nobody. You was
Right.
driving down the road real fast. So they can't. That's why the one judge said it was quasi in nature, meaning quasi means government and private entity combined. Last I checked, we don't have a government like that. Now they've been operating like that, but because every time somebody goes to the judicial court and pay, that's quasi in nature. Because you're not supposed to be going to pay. You're supposed to be going to see who the complainant is that's coming against you. So they allowed people to continue to go to the wrong venue, and they just started collecting trillions of dollars, and they have collected trillions of dollars because of people's ignorance. People don't.
Right.
Nobody has stopped and looked and see what branch of government traffic falls or fell under. And once I've learned it, I was blown away. I had somebody trying to convince me to create documents for people to go to the wrong venue and fight, and charge them to go to the wrong venue and fight, and hope that the judge rules in their favor. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I got to tell people the truth. If you get a traffic ticket, I don't care what state you're in, there is an administrative court in your state. You just got to find it. And once you find it, you go to that court. You can go to that court and demand that the Department of Motor Vehicles show up. When they don't show up, and when they don't show up within that 10-day period, you just tell the judge, I want this case dismissed. The Department of Motor Vehicle has acquiesced. They didn't show up. And no, I'm not giving them a continuous or an extension to show up. I'm here. They're agency collecting money, so and all the courts have to adhere to the rules of court. And that governs them under the rules of court, as well as it governs you. Because if you don't show up, what do they do to you when you don't show up to court, Tom?
So that's a warrant for your arrest.
Okay. What do they do for them when they don't show up?
There's no penalty for that.
There's no penalty for that? Then all you have to do is say, Your Honor, if I didn't show up today, what would you do? Well, I'd put a warrant list, or I'd put an affidavit out for you. I'd do something like that against you. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do that against the opposing side or dismiss this case.
Right. And see, the most important thing to realize is when you first learn this information, this is not something that you want to argue on the streets. You don't want to argue this with the police officers because they're just code enforcement agents. They don't know the law. So they're just doing what they're trained to do. So you don't want to argue that with them. And you really don't want to argue with the judge. If you go to the judge, you're going to waste your time arguing this with him because he's not going to allow you to win the case. So you have to go to the administrative court to get your remedy. Now, if you just want to have fun, like when I was learning, I was going to judicial court arguing, acting a fool.
I was
because I knew I was, I knew I was right, and they couldn't figure out what to do with me. But that's why I learned, got my courage, and because I was like, well, what are you going to do? You can't hold me in contempt of court. I don't have any bar cards. You can't suspend my license to practice law. So I'm more dangerous than the lawyer because I know the law, and you can't take anything away from me. and I don't need any favors. I don't need to come back here again and ask for a favor from the judge
And
or for the.
and you can say things that an attorney cannot say. And Black's Law Fourth Edition is the only law edition that had the canons in it. And the canons is what tells you what governs the judge and what governs attorneys. These are things that, they're not going to tell you. But once you learn these things, it kind of empowers you because now you know when you walk into a courtroom, the fear, it kind of gives you the power to set aside the fear. It gave me the power to write up a document charging a judge with treason. And I've charged numerous judges with treason. And every time I charged them with treason, they threw my case, they threw me out of the courtroom. Okay, easy win for me. Get out of my courtroom, Mr. Patrick. Okay, no problem. Get out of my courtroom, Mr. Patrick. Now, if they would have moved against me, in essence, they would have been committing treason on a lot of levels because traffic doesn't fall under the judicial branch of government. That's active
And
treason
see,
there.
and see, in your case, it's more dangerous for them to even continue trying to prosecute you. It's not really worth it to them to prosecute you because they're trying to get a couple $100s and they're risking a treason charge. That's not really worth it to them. So they
And
don't
that
know how much
includes
you
them
know.
losing their bond too.
Right. So they don't want to mess with that because if they have more to lose than you do. But see, it's all about but they will test you to see if you really because they will test you to see if you really know what you're doing. So if they think that you just file this paperwork and they don't think you really know how to do the paperwork after the fact, they'll just railroad you. Like, what you gonna do?
That's called cookie cutter paperwork. I had a judge's secretary follow me out of the courtroom and tell me straight up. She said, "Mr. Patrick," she said, "you're the first person that ever came to this courtroom, and you didn't bring in cookie cutter paperwork, and you knew what you were saying." She said, "You made the judge's day."
Yeah, you know what? They actually because being a traffic judge is kind of boring. Because
Yes,
a lot of these guys they have law degrees. They may even have a practice they have, but as far as courtroom, all they're doing is reading out. You know, uh, they're reading out what's called. Everything's already predetermined. It's like you got caught driving with a suspended license. Okay, that's a fine for this, and this is going to be 10 days in jail. So it's really no law being practiced there. It's just basically reading out sentences.
and every time I've gone to court because I didn't have a driver's license, registration, or insurance. Every single time, and I've won. I've been railroaded a couple times, but I've won more times than I've lost. And when I started writing up them treason documents, I ain't lost yet. I have not lost because again, I've always went to the wrong venue. Now I've yet to go to the correct. Actually, I did go to the correct venue, but I went on a parking ticket. I went to an administrative court for a parking ticket because that's the venue it all falls under. And the judge kept telling us, you got to make sure you give the other side a chance to hear, so us hear their side. So we couldn't figure out who to serve. But we went like three different times, but we couldn't figure out who to serve. And the judge kept saying, "Well, you got to get the right people in here for me to dismiss this case." I was like, and so they made it really difficult for us because parking is its own. It falls under administrative, but it's its own like agency, if you will. They don't even want to adhere to any of the rules under government. That's why they give you a fake hearing. Parking does. That's not a that's not a viable hearing. That's not a court hearing. That's not an administrative hearing. That's an agency hearing, which has nothing to do with law. So they can always rule against you if they want to. But if you take them to the administrative court, now they're going to have an issue. But you got to find the right people to file to in order to get them to come to the right court. So administrative is the only way to go, unless of course you hurt somebody or injure somebody. Then none of what we say applies because you now have an injured party.
So who do you serve in this case? The district attorney's office? Because there's no district attorney in parking tickets.
No, if it's a parking ticket, you have to go to the administrative court and you file. But the person you serve, he told us who to serve to. I forget, it's been so long. We had to file the city. It was for Santa Monica, but we had to file to the city, but we couldn't figure out who we had to file to the city. So the city of Santa Monica has a parking agency. So I came to the conclusion that you have to file to that agency.
Hmm.
But to this day, I don't know because we never followed through on it.
But did they end up dismissing the
Yeah,
case?
yeah, they dismissed it anyway, but because the judge got tired of us coming back. Now, if you have a traffic ticket, you file to the agency, the same place you get your administrative hearing or your fake hearing is from on the parking side. That's who I would file to. And then if the judge told me that's the wrong ones, if he ever said that once I went back, then I would ask him, who do we file to? And I think he did say something like the city, the district attorney,
Hmm.
someone you definitely have to go to the district attorney, and I think you have to file there. But they're not going to want to show up because they don't do traffic. They
Right.
don't do parking tickets or traffic. So if you just persist, I guess the judge will dismiss the case because there's nobody to bring to court. Because who is who is in who is in the parking ticket office that you would file to under that in that agency?
So I wouldn't know because that's still under the Department of Motor Vehicles jurisdiction, right? Or is it separate from the Department of Motor Vehicles?
Separate.
Okay.
Separate. Now you can make the claim that it is, in your honor. I'm going to make the claim that it's the same agency because it's watch this. It's administrative, falls upon the administrative branch of government, and it has to do with tickets. A parking ticket is written on behalf of whom?
So it was written on behalf of the Department of Motor Vehicles because they're using the California Vehicle Code.
Boom. Then I would use that same. Then you basically just said the argument that you would have. They must show up, even on behalf of the agency that wrote it, because what I've learned is that each office, like for parking tickets, that's an agency. They have an agency that's moving against you to make you pay for a parking citation. That's not Department of Motor Vehicles. That's an agency. Because when you request a hearing, you're requesting a hearing to that agency, and then they do an in-house hearing. In other words, right in that little office, they do a hearing themselves, and they can rule against you, and you got to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right in the sense of I would file to the district attorney to also make him liable on behalf of the agency, but it still remains in the administrative court. So, today's boy, that sound is great. I'm so proud of y'all. Okay, our sound is coming across real good, so that's positive. Um, uh, Anybody with a ticket, you know, I prefer traffic tickets because they're the ones that charge the most. You do not supposed to pay a bond before you've had your day in court. California is the only state that makes people post an $800-900 bond before you go to court. Now I got around that too. I filed. Uh, um, what's the pauper document style we filed?
Oh, um,
I filed that I was a pauper that had no money. And you can be a millionaire and you ain't got no money. But again, I filed that document, and it automatically stops you from having to post bond because you're innocent until proven guilty. When you post a bond for traffic, you're guilty until proven innocent.
mm-hmm.
So of course, I never since I've been here in '08, I ain't never had to post bond because I always know what to file. So I recommend, if you got a traffic ticket, stop going to judicial court. Stop playing that game. There's a video online for the state of California. All the states haven't done this, I don't think. But for the state of California, there's a video online from the administrative court explaining to you how to take your case to court in the administrative court in the state of California. State of Florida doesn't have, huh?
So where did they search for that at? How did they
They,
search to find that? How did they find that video?
that's on the. You have to go to the government page, to traffic under traffic. Go to the government page. There's a page. I don't know the website, but there's a page, and I've seen the video numerous times that the government created a video that explains step by step what you're supposed to do when you get a traffic ticket in the state of California. You're supposed to take it to the administrative court. Now that video was online last I checked, but I know for a fact that they have to have it online because the penal code ain't changed.
Right.
If you look up what branch of government does the traffic falls under, it's gonna say executive branch of government. The moment you read executive, that's administrative in nature. It'll also say that too. If it's administrative in nature, then they have to tell you, then you need to go to the administrative court.
Right. I think the biggest thing for people to get over is their fear, and but you have to understand that you have the same power. Everybody in the courtroom has equal power. They just have different roles. Just because you're the defendant, you're the one who's on the hot seat, but you have just as much power as the judge and the prosecuting attorney to use the law. You just have to know how to use it effectively, because you know the law better than they do. You can win.
Yeah, but I think it's like you said, fear. People people are only hoping that things just go away. They're not trying to
Mm-hmm.
learn. You know, think about how much time and effort we put into learning this stuff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we put our time in. So putting your time in gives you the power to stand up and charge a judge with treason. Putting your time in gives you the power, even though you might be afraid when you walk in that courtroom. It gives you the power to overcome your fear because the moment you start talking, all your fear get out the way. At least for me, I'm
Right.
not gonna lie. When I go to court, I got the same fear that the next man do. But the moment I open my mouth, oh, they're in trouble. Cause I ain't got but one goal: whoop their ass. That's my only goal. And I'm not trying to win a lip argument. I'm trying to win a legal argument. So I'm going in there equipped with knowledge to kick some serious ass. And I'm not playing fair, huh?
And you have to understand that they don't practice law in traffic court. They're not. That's not what they're doing. They're just what the district attorney's office is doing is they're doing their administrative duty of bringing your file to the courtroom, and the judge is just handing out sentences. So if you start talking about law, you're gonna catch them off guard.
And that happened to me. One state attorney, I said, Your Honor, let me see if I can remember what I said. It was so good because the state attorney, oh, I said, Your Honor, does the same rules apply to me apply to the state attorney? He says, Well, yeah. I said, Well, in that case, why isn't he adhering to the rules? I filed my documents and didn't get a response according to the rules.
Yeah, that's California government. That's Court Rule 4.111
That's
subsection
correct.
A.
That is
Yeah,
correct. So the judge just looked at me and said, Mr. Patrick, I'm gonna go ahead and recuse myself, and I'm gonna send you to the other judge. So he sent me to a higher judge, and then they ran over there and told him we got this pro se litigant, somebody pro per, and so we're just gonna go ahead and send him to you. And then everybody behind me was talking about you don't want to go to that judge, you don't go to that judge. I said yes, the hell I do, because I'm going to see what he know too. And that's the one time I think you showed up to my case in Glendale.
yeah.
That was the one in Glendale where the district attorney's trying to tell me, Mr. Patrick, why don't you just go ahead and take a deal? No, ma'am. What if we drop it down $25? No, ma'am, I'm not paying a dime. Mr. Patrick, you know you can go to jail. I said, 3 meals on a cot, let's rock. She looked at me and she said, You're not supposed to want to go to jail, Mr. Patrick. I said, Ma'am, if you're going to violate my constitutional right, then just send me to jail. And I walked out of that courtroom and I had to pay shit. But again, I was
So
willing to.
that's how you know it's not law, because they're not supposed to negotiate like that.
That's
You
correct.
know,
Thank you.
the code for violating the code has a specific penalty, so they're not supposed to be able to reduce the fine like that.
And they do that with everybody every time they go to court, especially when they go to the wrong venue. They let you win sometimes. You could win every time, but they let you win sometimes because you're in the wrong place. Now they know you're in the wrong place, but you don't know that you're in the wrong place. So when you get that ticket, the fear just overwhelm your ass, and you get chicken shit scared, and then you either pay the ticket or you go in there thinking that okay, I'm gonna stand up to this, I'm gonna stand up to this, but you don't know shit. You don't know nothing. You ain't learned nothing. That's the problem with people, if you ask me. Nobody wants to learn what governs them. And traffic is the easiest because that's the one with the least penalty. They can't put you in
Yeah,
jail.
yeah,
They can't lock you up for traffic. There is no injured party, and some officer wrote you a ticket for speeding. They can't lock you up for that.
hmm
And if a judge tell you it's quasi, stop being afraid. Say, Your Honor, what branch of government does quasi fall under? It's gonna fuck him up because it doesn't. And then if he says, well, it falls upon the judicial branch of government, can you please show it to me, Your Honor? Now you really got it. Now he stuck his foot so deep up his ass, he gonna throw you out of the courtroom. so, you just gotta have the right amount of guts, if you ask me. And I know, we've been in the pen, so we've been in the lion's den and we fought. So we have a courage that most people just don't have. The fear factor is overwhelming, and so they're not going to, they're not going to do what we do. But I understand. You do have an out.
But for me, it's more trouble. It's more trouble than it's worth to fight now because it spends so much time trying to fight. So it's better not. It's better just to stay out of their courtrooms altogether. And that's one of the reasons why I was glad you showed me the actual correct venue, because who wants to go to court and argue for an hour with a judge over the law, which is right, and he's going to railroad you?
And you notice,
eliminate that.
And you notice in all judicial courts, the judge, they even came up with a rule where they said the state of California Commission is giving the judge the right to act in more than one capacity. Do you recall that rule?
Well, he can't be the judge and the prosecutor. Is that
yeah, but then the judge sat there and lied, because he said California Commission created an act that they could actually, to get the facts or the truth, that they could actually act in more than one capacity, because I brought that up to the judge's attention. That's another reason you're in the wrong place. There is no injured party, but the judge is acting as the state attorney in a traffic case.
Yeah, because in traffic cases there's no district attorney. It's just you and the judge.
And then I think the best thing I can say to people is, stop going to the wrong venue. You have to really, and that's the easiest part, because administrative court is totally different. The judge is going to hear what you got to say.
Well, I think you have to show people how to find the administrative court. So they have to they have to do a Google search for administrative court for their state, and then find out where the location is.
All you got to do is call downtown to your local government office, and just remember, if you remember that there's only 3 branches of government, and when you call down there, you say, hey, I'm looking for the executive branch of government. I'm looking for the you can even say it like this: I'm looking for the executive administrative branch of government. The courthouse. I'm looking for the executive administrative courthouse. Don't say nothing about traffic. Just when your city tells you where that is, and they give you the phone number to that, then you call that court. You call that courthouse. And say, am I in the right place for administrative branch of government? And once they say yeah, can you give me the address? And then you go to that courthouse from now on for any ticket you get. It's going to throw them, because they're expecting you to go to the judicial court.
And so there's nobody in that court then? That's what you're saying?
Yes, correct. Especially for traffic. Ain't nobody in that court, especially for traffic. So once you start going to the right court, the judge is going to look at you, because what you're going to say next is, hey, Your Honor, I'm here and ready. Is the opposing side ready? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and motion for this case be dismissed, because the Department of Motor Vehicle has violated the rules of court, Your Honor. They didn't send me my 10-day notice for my hearing. And since I'm here and I set a court date, and they're not, but the ticket that was written is written on behalf of them, I'm going to go ahead and motion this case be dismissed, Your Honor.
So for clarification, where people can find that at in California, there's what's the code?
If you go online right now, if you live in the state of California, in any state for that matter, and you put in for your city, where is my executive branch of government administrative court? Just put that in. Where is my executive branch of government administrative court for your city? And it's going to give it to you, because there's only 3 branches of government, and you got to remember that: executive, legislative, and judicial. Everybody's going to the judicial. Wrong place. Stop. Don't file nothing. Don't stop. Go to the right place the first time, and they got to hear your case. And the odds are nobody's doing it in your state. I'm in California, and when I say very few people are doing it, very few.
I'm going to give people a code to look up. So
Okay.
California Government Code 11502 subsection A states all agency hearings are required to be heard by the executive branch administrative law judge, not judicial branch judge. So that's why you know you're in the wrong place.
Oh, but wait, wait. Remember, guys, what he just read applies to every state. One state is not different than another state. I don't care what state you're in hearing this. Read that again, Tom.
Okay, California Government Code section 11502A. All agency hearings are required to be heard by executive branch administrative law judges, not judicial branch judges.
If you can remember what he just said, that applies to you in your state. But find your code for those same words. Your state has those same codes.
But that's my interpretation of the code. But I'm tell you what the code actually says. The code
Okay.
actually says all hearings of state agencies required to be conducted under this chapter shall be conducted by administrative law judges on the staff of the Office of Administrative Hearings. So that's an administrative proceeding. So what I just told you earlier was my interpretation of that law, that code, is that you
Now,
have to have an administrative law judge, not the judicial judge, to hear your traffic ticket.
stop going to the judicial courthouse. You are not going to an administrative courthouse. Your case is administrative in nature. When they write you a ticket, that's administrative. Hands
Right.
down. Because all tickets are written on behalf of the Department of Motor Vehicle. They're not written on behalf of a judicial court. As a matter of fact, they're
Right.
not written on behalf of no court. They're written on
Right.
behalf of an agency.
So right. So the agency for in California, what's going on is that the code enforcement officer is writing you a ticket. Now that ticket is an administrative agency claim that you violated some provision of the California Vehicle Code, whether you were driving under the suspended license, you're speeding. This is a claim that you violated in administrative law. It doesn't become criminal until they file criminal charges on you in the court. That's what the district attorney does. They collect the tickets and turn it into a criminal matter. Because when you go into traffic court, they tell you it's criminal, but the traffic ticket itself is administrative. So you have to stop them and be like, hey, this is not administrative. This is not a criminal case. This is an administrative case. And so what I used was California Government Code Section 1150566A, which tells that they're supposed to send you a notice to get your administrative hearing. But because they don't do that, they're violating your due process. So they prevent you from getting to the administrative hearing because they make the assumption that you don't want it or you don't know that you need it.
Now,
And the minute they don't give you that, they have violated your due process. So that's how you stop the proceeding right there. You say,
look,
we can't even hear my case until we fix this due process issue.
they're violating. Listen, the judge is actually committing treason when you go to a judicial court, but you don't know that. So when I file those treason documents, that's why they get afraid of me. They actually get scared of me instead of me being afraid of them. They're now afraid of me because they don't know what I know about what they're doing. I'm charging a judge with treason. Treason is still on the books. There's still law for treason. The judge can't commit treason. That's why I said the canons tell you what a judge can and cannot do. But everything he just said, all tickets are administered. But if you go into a judicial court, not only do you just give them jurisdiction, you can't even make an argument in a judicial court because you're not only in the wrong place, he ain't even got to hear what you got to say. And I've seen judges do that. Shut people down from saying stuff because, again, not only you're in the wrong place, but judicial is not the same as administrative. That's how different are those two, Todd?
Well, judicial has criminal charges involved that have fines and jail time. Administrative doesn't. And people think you're crazy when you say you don't have to have a driver's license. And you got to remember that the license is for purposes of commerce. So you need it when you're a contractor and you're fixing people's houses for fees, you have to have a contractor's license.
That's
But
what
if
I
you're
use.
painting some,
That's what I use. Can you see that? Can you make that out? What did I say?
it's an identification card.
Okay, that's what I use. I ain't telling you to do that. Don't be like me, because you gotta know your fear has to be gone already before you become like me. See, my fear is
Mhm.
gone. I've been prepared to go to jail. I've been prepared. I ain't got to worry about it now, of course, but don't get your license. Keep your license. I promote you having a license. Just start learning what
Yeah,
governs you so you can make the difference, so you can stand up and stop spending your money just giving it away,
right,
because you're not spending it, you're giving it away.
right. So the good thing about this, here's the thing. I always tell people to have the driver's license because you may need to rent a car. You may need to, and it makes it easier for you because that way you're not getting your car taken from you and you have to fight all these things. So have the license, but what you have to know is when you do get these tickets, what to do with them. You have the license because it keeps your interaction with the police down, and you don't have to be constantly getting your cars is taken and impounded and stuff like that. So have the license for the purpose of making your life simpler. However, understand the license is for commercial purposes, and you're not engaged in commerce. So that's the main thing you need to understand. So for example, if I go paint my neighbor's house for free, I don't need a contractor's license. But if I'm doing it for a charging, I need a license to do that. So same thing with the driver's license. When you're engaged in commerce, you're doing a taxi service, you're driving for Uber, you're using the streets for commercial purposes. You need to have a license to do that. But if you're using the streets for your personal use, you don't need a license for that. But see, the problem is you've made all these statements that you are driving a motor vehicle. You're saying you're driving. See, driving itself is a commercial activity because that involves transporting goods or services for a fee. So you always have to say, "I'm not driving. I'm traveling." What do you mean? I saw you behind the wheel. The judge said, "Weren't you behind the wheel? Weren't you driving? Weren't you just traveling down the street?" No, Your Honor, you didn't see me driving. You saw me traveling. I was traveling. I'm never driving. Well, I do drive sometimes when I'm delivering Domino's pizza in college. I was driving.
See,
But
but
you have to understand the terms and what they mean. You have to understand that you your motor, even though your motor vehicle is classified or registered as a motor vehicle, you're not using it as a motor vehicle. You're using it as a motor vehicle only when you're engaged in commerce. So the argument can be made that the use of the property determines the status. Now that's something that you have to argue in court, but it's if you're not using it for commercial purposes, regardless of whether it's registered as a motor vehicle or not, you can still fight the ticket and be like, I wasn't actually engaging in the law you're saying I broke. You said I was driving with a suspended license. Okay, well, prove that I was driving. You have to show that I was making some money. So did you see me engage? Did you take me seeing money exchange in hands when I was driving? So that involved that. Did you that I'm
commerce.
transporting something for good? Yeah. So you have to be able to use the terms against them, and that's the key. The law is very black and white. And see, the law is not against you. The law is there for everybody to use. So when you go to the courtroom, you have to understand that you're just as powerful as a judge, as a district attorney, if you know the law well
Okay, look. I ain't finna stop you from being chicken scared, because I know most people are afraid. Because I used to be scared, so I know the fear. I know where you're at. But until you embrace the fear, until you stand up to it, you're gonna always be afraid, and they're gonna always
enough.
get you.
And here's the thing: I'm not trying to tell anybody to be a deviant or break the law with impunity. I'm just saying that you have to use the law to your advantage. So what you know, it's nothing wrong with having the license and driving around and all this other stuff. However, when you do get that ticket, your goal is to prevent yourself from spending Federal Reserve notes.
Right,
You don't
right.
want to give up any money. So that's when you have to make the argument where, hey, you got to prove. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Can you prove I was driving? You know.
With that being said, what we gonna talk about next week?
Might have hit back. I thought we was gonna get back to health, so maybe talk about. You want to talk about diabetes or something like that, or something?
Diabetes. It
What's
is.
a disease? Okay.
Diabetes. It is. I thought I wrote down, but we'll talk about diabetes because a lot of people got diabetes, and you know what? There's an easy solution for that. So, or was it hypertension we were gonna talk about?
Oh, no, it was hypertension. That's what we were talking about.
Hypertension. Okay. We'll talk about hypertension next week. Thanks for listening. And today's talk was about traffic. Uh, I know you're scared, but get over it and save some money getting over it at the same time. So until next week, my name is Forrest Gump.
I'm Todd Lionel.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all next week, same time, same station. Peace.
Bye bye.